Welcome back to another episode of Living the Sky Life. I am excited to be back, first of all, on the podcast after a summer hiatus. And I'm really excited to do this first series back about aging out of the system. I get asked so many times about my plans for Skylar and what we're going to do, that he's a year away from aging out. So I'm trying to have guests who also have older children on the spectrum or organizations that deal with housing and aging out of statewide systems on these episodes so that we can provide as much help and questions answered as everybody has. So my guest today is Karen South. She lives in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, and we had the pleasure of being introduced in a roundabout way. It's so crazy how small the world really is. One of her son's caregivers knows someone that works for my husband, and long story short, they said you two need to meet. So we absolutely did, and it's been blissful ever since. So Karen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, and it was such a great way that we met. And that first conversation just felt, we just talked at lunch like we'd known each other our whole lives. So.
Yeah, our sons are very similar other than
very
age
similar.
And size. Mm-hmm. Your son is very tall.
He's a big boy.
Skylar is not. So I guess, I would love for people to know a little bit about your family, your son, David, who is 23. Can you tell us a little bit about him, maybe growing up and then kind of what he is like as an adult now?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, David is my second of four children. So my oldest daughter's 25 and David's 23. Then I have a 22-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son. So they're just stair steps, one right after the other. And the middle daughter is just 13 months younger than David, but of course he's developmentally delayed. So they kind of grew up as twins and they're still very close, and it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, David was diagnosed at 22 months. I had no idea what autism was. When my pediatrician said, I'm going to refer him for, an evaluation for autism, I thought, okay. And not only that, we were just at his 18-month checkup. I didn't even notice anything. I thought he was just a baby,
Mm-hmm.
And apparently what she noticed was tippy-toe walking all over the exam room during that 18-month, which again, that would not have been an alarm to me. And he didn't have words or anything, but all kids do things differently. So I said, okay, whatever. And then I started reading.
Back then, that she was so attuned to it. Wow.
Absolutely. It is surprising. Yeah. And then when I started researching, again, 23 years ago, autism doesn't like to be touched. Autism doesn't like, that's all I could. And I thought, she is crazy. Like, he's the cuddliest baby I've ever known. I think he loves to cuddle. And my oldest daughter, she was kind of a touch me not. In fact, she would fall asleep in my arms, and if I didn't put her down, she would start squirming and wake back up. Like, I had to put her down for her to sleep peacefully. Now, David as a baby, it's my dream just to lay back holding that baby all the time, and he loved it. So, I was like, well, she's completely wrong. There's no way this boy has autism. And that was, I want to say that appointment was probably like in October. And then by December, we had a family Christmas. And this was the first time I noticed. Again, I had also been researching what autism even was in that time, but that Christmas after she had referred him was big at his dad's family, huge family, lots of people. And David kept disappearing. He kept walking into a bedroom where there wasn't anyone. And then it was time to open presents. And I'm like, hey, time to open presents. Here, David, come up. And he would get up and walk away. He wasn't interested in the presents. He wasn't looking at anyone. He just kept disappearing. And that's when it clicked in my head, like, oh, this might be real. There's something to this. And then the last time I followed him in the bedroom, he had found one of those big pink erasers. And he was just like, just pacing it back and forth, following it with his eyes, just staring at that eraser. And I thought, yeah, there's definitely something to this. And never did get him to open his Christmas gifts. He just wasn't interested. And so then that following February was when we went to Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And again, I had read it usually takes months, sometimes years to get a diagnosis, like just be patient, keep going back. And we went in and the Dr. Manning, who actually just retired, she was lovely. We were in there about 10 minutes and she said, yes, he definitely has autism. So I thought, wait, what happened to the weeks to months for diagnosis, So, and then she told me about, very, very few options. Of course, OT, PT, speech, and ABA. And, so then we just started on with the appointments, and it was early diagnosis, early intervention. You have to get that early intervention, get them in right now, get an ABA. Well, that was not covered by insurance at that time. But I was, it was, if he doesn't do by age 8, he's not going to do it. I heard that so many times. And so we did I did everything I could do. He did get full-time ABA for 3 years, which was $60,000 a year. That was out of pocket that we did not have. I mean, looking back, it was just a gift from God. Like, looking back, even now, I would say there's no way we could have come up with that money. But it just happened. I did fundraisers, I did whatever I had to do, and we got it done. Now, again, it was early for ABA even. So in hindsight, it wasn't the greatest ABA. Like some of the people that were doing it, it wasn't great for him. But it was something, I was doing something for him, and he was getting OT and speech and all that at the same time. But, now he's 23, and I wish, kind of my message to parents that young is, yes, early intervention is absolutely crucial, but also just relax. Like, just raise your child. It is not life or death. You're going to help him, whether it's at age 3 or 13. Whatever you do will help, or it won't, and then you'll try something else. But it's like that pressure I put on myself for the first 8 years of his life was just constant. Like, I never thought of anything else. It was what can I do to help him? And again, with no money, and on a personal note, a marriage that was in the gutter.
Right there with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a bad time. And again, in hindsight, I wish I had just relaxed and enjoyed my children more when they were so young, and let them enjoy childhood more, and David's whole life was being drugged from therapy to therapy. And again, 23 years ago, to me, doesn't seem like that long ago, but autism was still relatively new. I mean, it wasn't new. Obviously, we're going to later talk about Temple Grandin. She's 76 years old and she was diagnosed with autism. But as far as it being so common, I mean, the incident rate, that's right when it jumped up about 20 years ago. It was like 1 in 700 and went to 1 to 150 or something in that time frame. So, and also now in hindsight that my son is 23, literally every single thing he has done has been after age 8. So that statistic is not true. He didn't speak his first words till he was 16. Well, he did have words when he was younger and lost them. They disappeared from like age 3 to 16. And then at age 16 is when he started using words. Toilet training still is not anywhere close to complete. I mean, he will pee in the toilet when I tell him to. David, go on in the bathroom to pee. He'll walk right in there and pee. But if I'm busy and don't tell him to, he just goes in his pants. It's like he doesn't have that feeling. But if I tell him to, he can kind of make himself concentrate on that feeling and go. But if I forget, he doesn't. And then the other, bowel movements, never. He won't consider sitting on the toilet. Like, it just is something so difficult for him. But again, that was well after age 8 that happened.
Right.
And the communication he spells, he'll spell words to me now, again, well after age 8. So I just wish we could just, and I don't say like I did enjoy him. I think I was made to be a mom. That's what I'm here for. I love being a mom. And so it wasn't like pressure, no enjoyment, but I mean, just to relax, just to be who I naturally am, which is really laid back anyhow, rather than constantly every night researching what can we do? Right. Because it's going to happen when it happens. And as long as you're doing something to help, you're doing the right thing,
It's hard to not get out of that fix it mode. Like I was the same way. Obviously, I thought I just listened to everything people told me at the time, and it was hurry him up, catch him up to his peers. If you don't,
Right.
I don't even remember if it was age 8. I feel like for me it was age 10 or something, and the age always changes. But I do
Yeah.
feel like it's our obligation, whether parents listening with young kids want to listen to our thoughts or not, or use them. But I do feel obligated to tell people those things because I'm on the other side of it. I'm in the adult
Right.
years now. And like you, I just feel like it was a full-time job for Skylar. I commented before, it was a revolving door of therapists coming in and out of our house. And the poor
Yep.
kid couldn't just be a kid. And
Right.
again, like you, I have learned so much from watching him. He does things his own way instead of trying to force him to do it the same way my other daughter does it, or the way we quote unquote normally do things,
Right.
speaking, holding his fork, even whatever it is. If just letting him lead, it would have been a calmer situation all around. I think I
Right.
got extra anxious and extra stressed because I was trying so hard to fit him into this mold of normalcy that
Hmm.
everybody else. And he was butting heads with me because he's like, I can't do it that way. I'm not wired like that. I don't want to do it
Right.
like that. So
Right.
quit
Yeah.
forcing me. And we wasted time, I feel
Yep.
like, because
Same.
if I hadn't tried to get him to do things that way, he might have shown me that he could do it this way, and we'd be in
Right.
a different space. But that's the beauty of hindsight, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
so has David always had, I just know from our conversations in the past that he loves his DVD collection and things like that. Has that been something that's evolved over the years? Has it always been DVDs? Has he always been fixated on one thing and just kind of,
It started with VHS because my older daughter, who again is 25, she when she was a baby, Disney would re-release from the Disney
yes.
vault their VHS tapes the first Tuesday of every month. 2 or 3 would get re-released, and that was our thing. We would run to Target or Walmart or wherever and get the new release of the Disney movie. So by the time he came along, she had a collection of 10 or 15 Disney VHS. And I don't remember specifically the day like he picked them up and started being fixated on them. But whenever it started, that's all there is. Like still to this day, now the collection
I've
is
seen your collection. I mean, it's
thousands.
massive. It's
It
a
is
wall in a
massive.
room. Yeah.
And we still have, it's a wall in several rooms.
Yeah.
We still like we don't have space for them. And my husband and I both were like, we just have to quit buying these movies because he'll buy the same ones over and over. But I just can't stop because, first of all, it's the only thing that he enjoys, one of two few things that he enjoys. And he takes great care of them. He puts them away, keeps them in their cases, and he just loves them. I don't understand why, because he doesn't really even watch them. It's just about the collection. Like he'll put them in and he'll forward fast to a particular scene, or he'll watch the previews and then he'll take it out and neatly put it back in its case and put it away
Just making
and
sure
do
it
that
still
with
works.
another. Yes,
Like
yeah,
it's still good.
right.
Doesn't
So,
he
and
know?
sometimes
Yeah.
he's hilarious because, like, my room has his DVD collection, his room has his VHS collection.
Oh,
Sometimes what he'll do, and then in a little office off the kitchen is where his computer is. So what he'll do sometimes is he'll go in his room and go to a particular scene on VHS. And then he'll run to his computer and get that scene on YouTube and run to my room and get that scene on DVD. And it's like fun. He laughs the whole time and he'll
that's very
run to an
creative.
scene, yeah, on the same movie.
Yeah.
And he knows, like again, Disney re-released their movies every so many years. So on the VHS and the DVDs, you can have two movies that look identical, but when you put them in, the previews are different. And
Maybe
he
that's what
knows,
he's checking. Yeah, that's what he's checking.
yeah. So
That's
he'll check the
cool.
same year, and it's just remarkable that he knows that,
Hmm.
and that again, he has thousands of DVDs and VHS, and he knows right where they are. They're not in
Right.
any, they don't appear to be in an order to me. But he knows where they are. So I think he just has this like photographic memory where he literally, pictures it. He thinks in pictures like Temple talks about. He he sees the picture of that shelf, so he knows right where to go.
And he'll know if you remove them. So if you
Yes.
start
which is
dwindling
the
the
problem.
cases down from 3 of the same movie to 1, he will
Right.
lose it probably,
Oh,
right?
yes, he did. And he definitely knows. And one time, he was looking for a movie, and again, he now will spell to me some things. Not like we can't have conversation. I can't say, "Did you have a good day?" or "What'd you do today?" But "What do you want to do?" or "What do you want?" He will type that to me
That's
sometimes.
good.
Yeah, that's huge. So one time it was Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas. Like he wanted that. Well, he has at least 20 of those. So I'm like, it's right here. It's right here. And he was getting more and more upset. No, no, no. And then he finally typed 25th edition or something. Like it was the 25th anniversary. And there was a little thing on top, and that's what it was. And I was like, David, I can't find, like we searched and searched. I couldn't find it. And he couldn't find it, which is surprising because he knows where they all are. So of course he was getting so, so upset. And then finally I was like, David, I just can't find it. I mean, this is literally 2 hours later. And finally he typed on my phone car. And I went out, and sure enough, we had purchased it that day, and it slipped under the seat. So it was in the car, and it
Gosh.
just had that little 25th anniversary on it. But we think sometimes when he buys them, like he's not even paying attention to what he has, but clearly he is. So to just stop that, I just can't do that. Like
Oh, of course.
again, our home is starting to look like a hoarder. Like we have movies everywhere.
Looks like a blockbuster.
Yes, but it brings him so much happiness,
Yeah.
and it's more than just happiness. Like it's an organizational skill somehow. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but it's there, and he loves them. And now they cost like 99 cents each. So
Those are
you know
the,
it,
call it quirky or not, but those are the things with him, just that example of him typing that out and then knowing it was in the car. That's what gets me so like fired up and excited about Skylar and his spelling and whatever, because for so long they're underestimated because they don't, do so many things like toileting and
right,
Skylar and all that stuff. People just assume they're like a 5-year-old and they don't really understand what's going on around them. And that just is my huge motivation to continue to tell people about typing, spelling, whatever method works, that they'll show you how they want to communicate, because he's clearly paying attention and he's in there.
yes, that's my
Uh,
big thing too. Is try everything. I mean
yeah,
everything within reason. Some of
right.
the things that people have tried that are dangerous to any human. Obviously, don't try those. But anything else, like that's been my kind of my things that irritate me about the autism community are a couple of things. One, like the awareness versus acceptance argument, and puzzle piece versus infinity sign or
The
whatever.
the things that don't
I
matter.
right. My message wants to be, let people do what they want. Because the truth is, we feel like we don't need autism acceptance anymore. I mean, awareness anymore because it's everywhere, but it isn't. I mean, when you go to awareness events, whether it's autism or breast cancer or whatever, who's there? Everybody who's already aware of that
Right.
thing.
And yeah,
It's families
experiences it.
or
Yeah.
right or
Hmm.
professionals. So then you take your kid out into the real world, and the real world meaning a hospital or a school, and the awareness is not there. It's there
Right.
with a few staff. But I mean, David and I just this year had a horrific experience at the hospital because they weren't aware. They had no idea how to talk to him. So they just didn't. He's nonverbal, so they didn't speak to him at all. They spoke over him to me. And one of the things they spoke about was anytime he has to be put to sleep for dental work or anything else, it's always like in the back of my head, I'm thinking, just bring in the tranquilizer gun because it
Yeah.
takes so much to knock this kid out.
Skylar too, I tell him, you can't give him a dose based on his weight. Trust me, you're going to need to double that because he'll
Right.
laugh at
And
you.
then, so they have the little verses, and they get him to
Yep.
drink that. And you really need to get him to sit down. Like you really need to get sit down.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
like,
get on that.
I tried to get him to sit down, but I'm like, it's not gonna matter. So this nurse said 6 times, 6 different times, she said to me, well, if that doesn't work, what's going to happen is a nurse will sneak in here. She'll sneak behind him and give him a ketamine dart in the arm, a
In
shot in
front
the
of him.
arm, right next to me. And so then every time anyone walked into the room, he's throwing his hands up in
Yeah.
defense because he knows someone's about to sneak behind him because he's not deaf or stupid. He heard what she said.
Oh my
And that's how I
God.
would react if somebody was going to sneak in behind me and give me a dart in the arm.
Yeah.
It's just
Ugh.
ridiculous. So that's a perfect example of awareness. They needed awareness.
Yeah.
of how to talk to someone. Tell him, look, we have to make you sleepy for this procedure.
Hmm.
It's going to be a shot. Now, he's still not going to like hearing that he has to get a shot, but it's a lot better than hearing somebody's going to sneak up behind you and give you a dart in the
Yeah.
arm.
Yeah.
Just be honest and truthful with these people. So, like, that's my story about awareness. And then I have another medical story about acceptance. So in that event, they clearly weren't aware. Another time, David had broken a bone. We never did really figure out what it was, but he woke up one morning and he couldn't walk. Like, he just could not put any weight at all on his foot. So we went to the emergency room, which was a nightmare. They took all these x-rays, did all this stuff, and they said, well, we can't find anything wrong. If it's not better in 2 weeks, bring him back. I said, 2 weeks? He's 220 pounds and he can't walk. Like, what am I supposed to do with him for 2 weeks? And he said, completely serious, he looks at me now and says, do you want me to write a prescription for crutches? No, no, thank you. He'll beat me to death with some crutches. Like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want that.
What?
So I said, well, can I at least borrow a wheelchair to get him to the car? And oh, yeah, you can do that. So I borrowed a wheelchair to get him to the car. And then we're racking our brains. My husband has a good friend that is a orthopedic surgeon, which we hadn't thought about. We're like, let's take him to the gym. So we did. And he couldn't find anything wrong either, but he just put him in a boot. He said it must be a stress fracture from him having a meltdown one day or something. Put him in a boot and he was able to walk out of there. But this is where his office was very aware, and
Hmm.
they wanted to be so helpful, and they're taking him in for x-rays. So they had the awareness. I mean, I'm sorry, they had the acceptance too, but like, I'm getting my story wrong. So the first one didn't have the acceptance. They were
Uh-huh.
just kind of mean and talking over. And this one, they had the acceptance. They were loving, but the whole staff like rushed into
Yeah.
the x-ray room and they all wanted to help so desperately. So they didn't have the awareness. Like, they
Hmm.
had the acceptance, but they didn't have the awareness that, hey, we need to back up and let one person handle this.
Right.
So we need both, is my story. Like,
Right.
we need acceptance, and we still do need the awareness outside of the autism community. People don't have it. Like, we feel like it's everywhere, but it
Right.
isn't.
Well,
We
and it's
don't.
hard because we as advocates, I used to not say, like in your or your example, the first example with the blood draw or the sedation medicine. Normally we always say to Skylar, because he has to actually give blood this weekend. And we will tell him, like, we're just going, where we always go to the hospital. Those ladies are great. They're going to draw some blood just to check your levels of medicine and whatever. And then we won't be here very long. You've been through this so many times, you know exactly what they're going to do. And we tell them all the things. But if that had happened to me now in the last 4 or 5 years, I've really gotten stronger with my voice. I would have kind of asked that particular nurse to step out in the hall with me. And I would have explained, listen, he may look like he's not paying attention. I can promise you he knows everything that you're saying, and he just heard you say that. And so now he's even more fearful. What you need to do is presume confidence with people when they come in, and give the whole spiel, because I guess the more that we just kind of look past it and roll our eyes, which is what I always used to do, and get frustrated with those people and not say anything, they'll never learn. They're going to do it to the very next person that comes in.
Right.
It's hard because I don't want to be seen as a Karen. Sorry, no offense to your name.
I know.
But the social media
Right.
Karen version. And I just don't want people thinking I'm confrontational, and you don't have to be that way. It's just an education. I don't have to have a
Right.
tone. I don't have to be rude. I just can
Right.
educate them that Skylar is not unlike many people like him who are nonverbal,
Yes.
that they totally
You
understand. So
just gave me a
anyway.
great idea. Like, from now on, I'm gonna have David wear a T-shirt that says "presumed competence."
Yeah, I
That's a
should sell
great
them.
idea.
I say it
I'm
all
gonna
the
do
time.
that. Yes.
Yeah, I should. Well,
Because that's
so
what it is.
yeah, it is. Well, I guess kind of along those lines too. And now that he has quote unquote aged out of services, was he in a program that ended, like a specific education program, ABA program, or was it just his services and the things that he needed that ended at 22 for him?
He was in public school,
Okay.
so he could have stayed in public school. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He could have stayed in public school until age 21. Things at his particular school were not going well that last couple of years, so I ended up taking him out at age 18.
Okay.
And turned out that was the best thing I could have done, because shortly after that was COVID shutdowns,
Oh yeah,
and I was
that's
able to
right.
take him out gradually. So we went to where he was just going 2 hours a day, and then gradually eased him out. So that was a huge benefit with COVID, right around the corner that of course I didn't know was going to happen. Um, but yeah, so either way, whether it had been 18 or 21, he would have aged out of public school. And then there is nothing for him. There are several day treatment centers in the area. I applied to every one of them because I want him to be peers. Because also he's bored with me.
Yeah.
We go to Goodwill and McDonald's every day.
Yep.
Um, and it's, he gets his movies and then we go home. And of course, I still do a lot of things. I still have a swing in my basement, and I mean, my garage, I swing him, and we do some exercises and things, but still, everyone needs someone more than their mom, you know?
Absolutely. A
Um,
friend would be nice. You
yes,
know?
yeah. So
So,
I really wanted them with peers. I applied to all the day treatment centers. Um, one of all of them accepted him, and I toured that one, and every single person there was over the age of 60,
mm,
and in most of them in wheelchairs, and um, it would have been a nightmare. David would have absolutely terrified those people because he's very loud. He yells loudly. He'll pound his chest. He stomps his feet heavily. It would have been a terrible fit for everyone. And then, then I imagine staff would, try to simmer him down a little bit to not scare the other attendees. And it was just not going to be a good fit at all. The others all turned him down because he has a history of aggression and he's not
hmm.
toilet.
I hear that
So with
all the
those
time.
two things,
Yeah.
and the thing is, it's easy for me to say his aggression has decreased tremendously, which it has. Age 17 to 21 was brutal. I'm brutal. But now his aggression has decreased significantly. But I still imagine going into a new environment, a new routine, some of that aggression more than
Yep.
likely is going to come back for a little while. So like they're going to have to know how to work through that and then see, the more positive parts of David's personality, which there are tons of, but getting past that aggression of a 250-pound man is difficult. I
Right.
understand that. But the problem is there has to be somewhere for him. As you and I have talked about, I'm not going to live forever. That there has to be some place for him. And
Hmm.
I have not found anything. I have
Right.
not found that.
When you were filling out the forms, whether there's wait lists or just, to get him into some of those day programs, what was the application process like? Obviously, you had to clarify on there that he's not toilet trained and that he maybe has aggressive behaviors. Were you asked to describe them so that they could determine? I just hear this a lot, that not even the toilet training, which would be our issue too, but the word aggression, it takes on all different meanings. And so when people see the word, they automatically think like they're punching walls, they're punching people, that they're just violent. And so I always hesitate to use the word aggression when I'm describing Skylar, because it's mostly self-injurious, like he slaps his leg, and 90% of his is Crohn's related. It's his belly's upset and he's just so frustrated. He doesn't know how to explain to us that he is in pain. And if he slaps me, which I talk about him slapping me all the time, it's an open hand, like he hits me on the arm while he's eating. And it's like just repetitive, and it annoys me more than it doesn't hurt. It's just
Right,
annoying to be hit all day long.
right,
But other than that, he doesn't hurt other people. He doesn't, punch things. I mean, he's 5'4", he's 130 pounds, he's a tiny little thing. So, but I don't want to be dishonest and say he doesn't have any aggressive behaviors, because then if they did take him and the toileting was an issue, they'd say, you were not honest. You did not
right.
reveal he pulled a staff member's hair today or whatever. Because like David and many people, when Skylar gets in an environment for the very first time, it could be a new doctor. It was the horse riding. We went to the barn. He has bowel movements and open anxiety. He reached for the lady that owns the horse barn. He reached for her hair when she went up to him to say hi. he lunged right at her because he's so scared about what's about to happen to him that
Right.
his anxiety, and that's when you see that come out. But it only takes 2 or 3, 4 to 5 at the most times going back to these places. He never has another bowel movement. He doesn't touch anybody. He high fives them. He knows he's safe and it's okay. So
Right.
all that to say, like, what was the requirement for you to be transparent about, I guess, with David on these
Right.
forms?
Well, and they do ask that on the applications to describe the aggression.
Okay.
So David, thankfully, has never been aggressive with peers. His aggression is always towards an authority figure. So whoever, you can kind of say, like, some people see it as though whoever tells him no. So then you get oh, he's just spoiled, you know, which it's not whoever tells him no, it's whoever isn't understanding him. And so in some cases it is like we had a case where one time he wanted to go somewhere and he was communicating shoes to me every way he knew how. He was like signing shoes, he was spelling shoes, he was verbalizing shoes, which I understood as shoes. It's not like other people that don't know him wouldn't have understood that's what it was, but I knew that's what he was saying. And in that case, the answer was just no. But in his head, it was that I wasn't understanding. And so that's why, because he just couldn't believe the answer would be no to that question at that time. So that's when he keeps escalating. So each way he would ask, which again, to me, it was a beautiful thing. Like, look at him trying to communicate.
Right.
But it was something he wanted to do so badly that he couldn't accept that. How could the answer possibly be no to that? So he kept trying different ways, but that's kind of off your subject. But so yeah, they do ask on the applications to describe what's going to trigger the aggression. What's the aggression going to look like? Now for David, the aggression can look like punching things. It's often stomping, which a lot of that is just how he walks. It's a vestibular issue where he just stomps. But with aggression or with anxiety, he will sometimes jump and stomp. And again, his actions are very toddler-like.
Yes.
The same way you see a toddler stomp. But again, he's a 250-pound man, right. So it rattles the whole building.
That's the first thing I thought of with your shoe analogy, is that it's just like a little kid, saying, I wanted this. And you're like, no, I want it. And they just keep up their, right, whining and their tantrum.
What about this? But I'll do this.
But our kids can't negotiate with us and continue. He's just going to keep asking you the same way. Like, but I don't understand why. This is what I want. Right. Give it to me.
So, yeah, that's exactly it. And that's fair. If he understood the word why, which I would love, like, imagine if he could answer why to me, that would be beautiful. Because why, like, for example, right now we have an issue. My air conditioner is not working in my car. So I've been driving my husband's truck. Well, that is against his rules. He doesn't, like, the car is mine. The truck is my husband's. He does not want to ride with me in the truck. So I'll say, we're taking the truck. And he'll say, car. He'll grab my car keys, car. I say, no, the car is broken. We're not taking the car. So it's a big ordeal because he's driven to go. He wants to go out somewhere every day, but he doesn't want me driving that truck. Could also be I'm not great at driving a truck. but he doesn't want to do that. So he'll keep, again, just like our other kids would be, well, that's okay, Mom. I don't care if the air conditioner is broken. We'll just try to, like other kids would walk through that. Right. Well, he can't do that. So he'll just say the same thing over and over and over. And again, I believe with everything in me, it's not him demanding to have his way as much as just baffled that I can't understand what he's saying. Right. Like, he feels like he's trying so hard to clearly communicate this, and he can't figure out another way to communicate where I'll get it. So I've started now saying to him, I understand what you want. I understand you really want to take the car, but we cannot. The answer is no to that. And finally, he will get that. Now, 3 years ago, that conversation would not have happened without me getting punched 4 or 5 times. Like, now we can get through the conversation, usually with some stomps And then once we're out and about, he's fine. He realizes it's getting him where he needs to go, and it really is okay if I drive a different vehicle. But he does just like that routine. And when it's off, it throws it starts the whole day. So yeah, again, we do, and I get it as a director of a day program, and you've got a waiting list anyhow. Am I going to put my staff through that? Am I going to put my staff through a 250 man punching that? And it breaks my heart because David is, you hate to even describe your child like that because he
that's not
is
all that they are all the
right,
time. It's
right.
rare
He
occurrences. Yeah.
so loving. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's 3 or 4% of his life. But again, with him being so big and so strong, that's the part a lot of people remember. Most of his life, he's giggly and laughing and loving and kisses me probably 75 times a day. I mean, he's just the love of my life, sweet. I mean, just love. I just can't get enough of him,
Yeah.
But that hitting hurts. And
yeah,
it has been the thing that has motivated me for every new thing I've tried. Like, we went through a phase of him severely hitting me, and I'm all night Googling, what can I do? At that time, I was like, maybe it's because he can't communicate. And that's when I found the spelling program, which we went to a different one than you did, but we took him to that program, and it was brutal. It was brutal. He broke my husband's nose. He headbutted my husband, broke his nose. He does this thing when I'm really not bending in his mind, like he wanted to leave the therapy and I wasn't doing that. And when hitting doesn't work, he'll do this thing where he'll like try to snatch my glasses off my face. And he did that repeatedly. So my nose was so swollen, I could not wear my glasses. I mean, we came home, my husband and I came home looking like
what in the hell did you sign up for?
Yes. And that was so discouraging to me because I just knew. I had it in my head. I had prayed through it. I just knew that was the thing. I knew I was going to take David there, and I was going to come back with a perfectly calm child that could communicate exactly like my other kids communicate. And I just knew it. I had it so built up in my brain that that's what was going to happen. So then that drive home, because I can't fly with them. So the drive home from Texas was 100% pure defeat. We didn't hardly speak. We were just, my husband and I were defeated. We came back feeling miserable. 2 days later, he took that little spelling board on his own. He picked it up, brought it to me, and spelled goldfish. He wanted goldfish crackers. Aww. And it was just like, hallelujah, I'll take that beating every day of my life. That's what
Maybe.
I have to get this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when the aggression decreased tremendous. So I was right. It was the frustration in not being able to communicate. And that was a way for him to communicate. Like, we had done PECs and all that, and he just did not respond well to it. He didn't like it at all. So, the spelling helped a lot. And then years later, the aggression, I mean, I really don't share much. I do in this forum because this is all us. This is all us autism community trying to help, and also to say, hey, yeah, I've been there. And guess what? We're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Your kid's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And even the unknowing of where is he going to go after I die? Like, even that, I just have such peace now. It really is going to be okay. Like, I honestly believe, God didn't get him this far just to get him this far. Like,
and
there
us.
is going to be something.
He didn't get us this far either. He's not going to leave us hanging.
Right. And I tell myself, because I'm like, nobody else can do this. Nobody else. And there's a little hint of arrogance to that. Like, really, who do I think I am? That
I'm a mama. Right. That's who I am.
So, but somebody else is going to do it. And his aggression is going to decrease. And it's just, we just have to have faith in that. But at the same time, never quit looking. Like, never quit working to help him on his side of it, and never quit working to help others learn how to help him and learn how to accept him and see him for the good that he is. Because no one could ever convince me that any moment in his life, any bit of his aggression has been out of, I want to hurt you. I don't believe for a minute that he has that in him. And it's just that he wants to live in peace. He wants to live in peace. That, I just can't begin to imagine how horrific that level of anxiety has to be
Sure.
for them.
Yeah.
It has to be horrific.
The rage
Um,
inside of them is probably so much more than they actually exhibit, because
yeah,
I try to think about that sometimes, but I try not to weigh myself down with it, because it would make me so sad every day. But
right,
thinking of myself never speaking a word, for in Skylar's case, for 20 years, almost 21, never ever have I said a thing. I've never said I love you to anyone. I've never said what I
right,
like to eat. I mean, the foods we think he likes, he may absolutely despise, and he's eating them anyway because he's like, well, I gotta
right,
eat. So
right.
they're not gonna figure it out. I mean, that's just it's hard to fathom never speaking to
It
anyone
is. It
and hearing
is.
your voice and all of that stuff.
And you're
Well,
right. And David has always been such a pleaser. Like he wants to get it right so
mhm,
desperately.
yeah,
And so he'll do these things with teachers or therapists or me, whoever. He'll do it over and over and over. And again, it's like
probably so bored.
some of them, yeah, is it helping him?
Yeah.
It certainly isn't bringing him enjoyment. And if it is helping him, then yeah, it's worth it. But if it isn't, why are we putting him through this?
Hmm.
And to not really know. And again, because he's such a pleaser, okay, I'll do this, I'll do this. So when communication isn't clear with him, then he can't please. He can't do so that's when he gets upset because I, what do you want from me? It's like he's trying so hard to figure that out constantly.
Right.
And why is it always that? For us as humans, sometimes it's what we want. And I feel like he lives his life. What do you want from me? What do you want me
Right.
to do? What do you want me to do today? What do and it's just not nice is what it boils down to. Like we need to be very deliberate in making sure he gets to show us what he wants. What does he want from us?
Well, so kind of along those lines, so if you were denied some of those other programs and it hit you that you're gonna have to entertain him all day now that he doesn't have any programs to go to, um, how have you handled that, and what have you done? Because I've talked to some other parents who have said their initial idea was okay, and I've thought the same thing when I've kind of jokingly blogged about, like I said, it's mom's school of hard knocks. Like I'm gonna keep this kid entertained for 8 hours a day, and we're gonna go here and we're gonna do this. And I kind of had these plans, and it kind of goes back to what you just said. Like, we're trying to entertain them and keep them fulfilled throughout the day with stuff that they may not want to do. Skylar might just want to take 2 hours and watch Elmo's World. And I have
Right.
to be okay with that. So how do you wrestle the balance between sitting around your house all day long watching whatever it is that they like on TV and not fulfilling them, I guess, or
Right.
overstimulating them and taking them into the community every hour to do something else? So
Right.
what do you guys do? What's a typical day?
That's the hardest thing. Well, and with David, it is the moment he opens his eyes. Shoes, socks, shoes, socks. He'll say it over and over. Like he wants to go the minute he opens his eyes. So that's what we do. Like, and I'm a morning, like I like to get up and be productive in the morning, get my stuff done. And so I've had to switch it. So I get up, we do his thing in the morning. And sadly, that's going to Goodwill and going to McDonald's.
Yep.
That's what he wants every day. And it's important to me to get him to do other things. So I'll usually squeeze in one more thing. Like we'll go to McDonald's, we'll go to Goodwill, then we'll go to the library, then we'll take a walk, then we'll do something. We do something that he doesn't necessarily hate, but he would never request. Just to get him doing something else. That's been the struggle with David his whole life, is finding anything to motivate him
Right.
because
Skylar too.
he doesn't appear to enjoy very many things. Like he likes to swing, but even he's so big now he can't swing at the public parks because those swings squeeze his hips and
Yeah.
they're not fun anymore. So he likes to swing, he likes to go Goodwill and buy movies, but that's it. And he likes to ride around in the side by side, but he loves that. He would do that all day every day. So we try to incorporate that. I've some lovely, lovely friends across the road that have a farm and let us ride around the farm. um, but other than that, it's just trying to find something creative. Lexington has a beautiful children's museum and exploratorium. And last week I was determined that we were going to go there. He would really like it once we got in there. I could not get him in it. He was no, no, no. Like I don't know why. Maybe there was something about the lighting or the smell or the sound or something that was painful for him. I don't know what it was, but he would not go in there. And you know, I struggle with that because a lot of times, like, okay, is this just me wanting him to have different things, or is
Right.
that really enough enjoyment for him? Like, I think that he should. I do have him have a job 1 day a week. We fill the bags. One of my church partners with one of the elementary schools, so we fill the backpack program, for the kids that don't have food on the weekends. And that's become
Nice.
David's job. So once a week, we have to go to Walmart and we buy everything on the list
That's
and we go
good.
to church and we fill the bags. Now, there are some days he sits there and waits for me to fill the bags, even though it's his job, which, somebody walking by looking in, or, it's easy to be like, oh, yeah, right, David's filling the bags. Well, that day he isn't, but he did learn to just sit quietly and wait for me for an
That's a
hour,
huge
which
accomplishment
is
in
a
itself.
great skill. Yes.
Yeah.
So, he's learning some skills like that. But also to him, I think it's just busy work filling these bags. I don't think he understands that these kids don't actually have food and that he's actually helping these kids by doing this. But if we can get that to click and he can feel like he has purpose, I think that would be huge.
Yeah.
Um,
How are you handling, and I never want to sound like I'm selfish when I say these things, but I'm just trying to think of things that maybe other parents are thinking that I know I am. I worry about my own fulfillment. Like I focus so much on Skylar and like the day to day and what we're going to do. And I'm trying to plan all that out and taking him here and there and all of that. But, there's things I like to do in a day too. And I don't want to lose complete identity of who I am and myself from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. when he wakes up and goes to bed. And like, I mean, I've already lived 20 years of Elmo's World. Always. I mean, even if he leaves to go run an errand with Josh and it's on the TV, I'm like, and I just leave it on. I'm not even thinking about it. And I'm just humming along or whatever. I'm like, Laura, you don't have to watch this. He's not here. You can turn it or whatever. But that's my biggest thing is I want to be here for him. And I don't want to like send him to a program just to get him away from me. That's not at all what I'm saying.
mm-mm.
But it'd be nice to have like even a program that's 2 days a week or 3 days a week, just to give me, even if it's 4 hours or 2 hours, that he goes with a respite peer and goes into the
Right.
community and does something with them. I mean, I think that's back to just the need for respite because we don't get any.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
think
Yeah.
that's my fear because we don't have any respite now. And when I really need it, when I'm on the clock 24/7 with him, what what is that going to do to my mental state? Because I love him. But I don't want to be around him 24/7 and he does not want to be around me. I know he doesn't.
Right.
And I worry his aggression and behaviors may pick up because he's like, "Mom, I'm so irritated with you. I just think Kendall got to go to college, Kendall got to leave, and he's
Right.
stuck here for another 20
Mm-hmm.
years or whatever." I don't know.
Yes.
So does that make
Yeah,
sense?
that's so difficult. Yeah, it is. And I mean, if I'm honest, there are many, many, many days and weeks that go by that I am nothing but David's mom.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, because he sleeps 4 or 5 hours a night. And from the minute he gets up until the minute he goes to sleep, it's me. Like now, after we do our running, Goodwill and all that, we will come home and for an hour or so, a couple hours, he will go through the movies that he bought. So he'll watch the previews or whatever the movies he got, and that gives me a little time to do some laundry or clean the kitchen.
Right.
That's
Yeah, it's
still not
basic. It's not even
fulfilling
fun
for
things.
me,
It's just basics.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I really that's a huge struggle of mine, huge, because like I have a friend that we will go for a hike at 6 o'clock in the morning because I can sneak out before David gets out of bed, and then
Yeah.
of course
Sneak
when he
out.
wakes up,
See?
he'll wait for me. Yeah, I mean, my husband can say, "Mommy will be home," and then she'll take you, and he's fine with that as long as
Mhm.
he knows he's gonna get to go. He'll hang out for a little while and wait for me, but again, that's like it's like, oh, I gotta hurry up so I can get back to David, and that right now that's just my life. I need to have much more balance than I do have. And my husband is wonderful about helping and doing
Right.
things with David, but I am David's person. So it's, you know, I'm constantly in my head, okay, is doing whatever this thing is that I want to do, is it worth it to cause the anxiety for David to do it? And usually the only time my answer to that question is yes, is if it's something with my other kids or my family. Sometimes I'll go to visit my parents for a day without him. Um, because those relationships are super important to me
Right.
too.
They are. Hmm.
So, and with my other kids now being adults, you know, it's not that I don't want to take David with me. I took my daughter and I went to the zoo and the Reds games the other night, which I love doing both of those things. I would love nothing more than have David with me, but he won't do those things. He won't do them. So he would be miserable and then we would be miserable
Right.
and
Yeah.
nobody would have had a good day.
Hmm.
So it's very difficult. I mean, the key is finding respite, finding someone who is going, and actually I just found someone just this week. She started with him 10 hours a week. And I
That's
think she's going to be
great.
amazing. I think she's going to do a really, really good job with him. And when I left this morning, I told him I was going to work and that she was coming to get him. And he was giggling, and I was just like, yes, he wants something different too. Like he thinks all he wants is me, but that's because that's really all he has.
Right. Is
You
she
know,
close in age to him or is she
no,
older?
she's probably halfway between me and him. So she's probably 30s,
That's
maybe
the
40s.
ideal age. I filled out a form the other day and it was like 25 to 30 or 30 to 40 kind of, I feel like, because everyone's like, go post on the college boards and stuff. I'm like, no, for one, they're they don't they're not in it yet. Like, I mean, they're in school and like, but I don't think they realize that Skylar's a lot of work, for one. For
Right,
two, they're not going to be around long. So we can't really I don't want him to
right.
develop a relationship with someone who's only here for the semester or is going to get married and have kids and like they all do and they move on, which that's fine. I don't judge them for that. That's their life. But I feel like somebody who's in that age range has a better idea. Plus, with the toiling, there's dignity involved in that. And I don't
Exactly.
want someone that is a adorable little girl that's 20, 4 to 25 years old changing his pull-ups. I mean, God, how horrible for Skylar, especially if he has a
Right.
crush on him like he always does.
Yeah.
That's it's not ideal. I
Yeah.
would prefer a
That's what
male.
I've had people, yeah, I've had people say to me before, well, can't your daughters? I'm like,
Come
no.
on, would you want to change your brother's pull-ups or shower your
Yes.
brother?
No.
No, that's
They wouldn't want it, and he wouldn't want it.
no.
There's no way. He'd flip out if one of
Yeah.
them tried to change him. Like they don't want that.
Yeah.
And it's not their responsibility. I mean,
Right.
it's just not. And the siblings, we need to do something amazing for the siblings of our kids because they are amazing.
They
They
are.
sacrifice so much. Again, with my kids being so close together, they didn't even realize it the first part of their lives how much they were sacrificing. But family vacations, family anything. We didn't do none of
Yeah.
that. There's no big family gatherings and or any, we just didn't do those things.
When we
And
try, it's often traumatizing for them because it just doesn't go
exactly,
well
yes.
sometimes.
Oh my goodness. One time we took my son and his friend kayaking. We were at a big park in Lexington where you can kayak. So they were going to kayak and David loves the park. So, and they had one of those splash pads, which he loves. So I was confident I could keep him entertained for an hour and a half or so while they were out on the lake. And we were at the splash pad swing and everything was great. Then David rubbed his eye and got sunscreen in his eye. And
Mm.
it was horrible. Oh, he was so upset. And it's mom, fix it. You're the one that fixes everything. Fix this. And of course I couldn't. And the more he rubbed, the more it hurt. And he was punching me. And
Oh
this little
no.
tiny old lady came up to us and looks at him and says, "You should not hit your mother." And
She better
I
back
said,
up.
yeah. I said, we'll be fine. We'll just please back away because I didn't want him to take her out. And he was at that place he would have for telling her what to do because he doesn't want to hurt me. I mean, he adores me.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. So then my poor son is out there with his friend And my daughters were just sitting there in the shade, waiting for me to get David back in the car and get my son back in from the lake because we had to get out of there before David got a little old lady, And, it was just terrible. It's like it was going to be this beautiful, perfect, easy day. And instead, we had to listen to David yelling the whole hour home. My son couldn't even talk to his friend because David was yelling. So, I mean, it was just a terrible day that would have been just a day to any other family, you
Hmm.
know? And
Yeah.
it was just so unfortunate because it could have been great if it weren't for the stupid sunscreen. Um,
Dang sunscreen.
I know. So
Well,
we should have just gone with the sunburn.
oh, that would have been worse.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't want to get away from our conversation without mentioning the learning curve of Kentucky. So I am it's all in on this. I just think this is such a beautiful idea that you've had. I love your mission statement. I want you to share with everyone exactly what this opportunity is that you're bringing to the area, and you have an event coming up. When this airs, it'll be the end of the month. It's the 23rd of September, correct?
Is the event, yes.
Yeah, is the event date. And
Yeah,
you have incredible speakers, me included.
that's
But
right.
Temple Grandin's coming. So tell us a little bit about the Learning Curve of Kentucky and then about the upcoming event that you have.
Okay, so my business is called Learning Curve of Kentucky. Our mission is to provide individuals of all abilities with the support, training, encouragement, and opportunities they need to have fulfilling careers, hobbies, and social activities. And I specifically put that because it's not voc rehab. Like if whatever they end up doing leads to a career, great. But if it just leads to a hobby and some time with some peers, that's great too. Like I'm all about that because again, there aren't opportunities like that. So so my son was diagnosed, 22 years ago. I followed Temple Grandin since then. I've read most of her books and I just adore her. I think she's brilliant. Well, so my friend across the street is starting a cattle business, and she mentioned to me one day that there just weren't many women. Everything she's going to is all men. There just aren't women in the cattle field. And I asked her if she had heard of Temple, and she hadn't. So she got her books and started reading the agriculture books that Temple had written, and of course was hooked because she's even more brilliant as far as that goes, I think,
Yeah.
than the autism stuff. But so so this is Two Sisters Pumpkin Patch, and shout out to Morgan White Cattle. That's who this is. And she started, was all on board with all of Temple's things, and then she was going to a cattle seminar thing in Missouri, and she said to me, I know you're not really a cattle person, but Temple's going to be there, do you want to go? And I said, yeah, of course, yes, I want to go. So she told me just like not long before the event, and I immediately jumped in, yes, I'm going to go. And then when I got to thinking about it, that mom guilt kicks in. No, I'm not going to do it. I've gone through all the pros and cons, and the only pro is I just want to see Temple. Like there's really no reason for me to go to this cattle thing. But she was going to some other cattle things before this one. So she had messaged. So I was like, I told my husband, okay, I'm not changed my mind. I'm not going to go. And then she messaged me the Sunday. I would have had to leave on that Monday, the Sunday before that. She left her boots and her bibs in the barn. Would I pick them up since she was flying? Would I just drive them? So I said to my husband, well, I
Now
didn't
you're
tell her I was going
obligated.
to cancel, so I have to go. I have to bring her bibs and stuff to her. So I did. And I listened to Temple's newest book called Visual Thinkers, which is phenomenal. You all need to read it. Or I can't read her books because it's a lot like reading a textbook, but listening to them, I love. I can listen to them all day long and really absorb the information. That's just my learning style. But anyhow, the Visual Thinkers book is fantastic. So as I'm listening to that, the first part of the book is describing this business idea I've had in my head for years, probably about 6 years. I've been dreaming about this business, but I had never said it out loud to anyone. So we go to this cattle event and I get to meet her. I get to have dinner with her twice. I mean, I've seen her many, many times at autism conferences, but they're huge. They had thousands of people. And so this was a small crowd, about 80 people. So we got a lot of time to actually speak with her, and it was phenomenal. And all the cattle people were just great. They're just the nicest people. So anyhow, I got to talk to her and I just blurted out this business idea to her, and she said, you have to do it. You have to do this. It is so needed. Because I mentioned to her that we could have like, woodworking things where they could learn that. They could learn gardening or working with horses or, drawing, building anything they want. We just have to find those interests and help them learn them and have them a venue where they can do those things. And she said, you have to do it. We need it so badly. You have to do it. So I said, great. Well, then the next morning she came up to me and she had told me some specific things to try, some specific exercises to try with David. And she said, put my number in your phone so you can text me and let me know how these exercises go with him. So I did that, and that was in November. And then January, I texted her, these exercises are great. Like David's focus and attention is so much better. He's just calmer since we're doing these exercises. And I set my phone down and it immediately rings. And I look at it, it says Temple Grandin. I about flipped. And I answered and she said, that's great. I'm glad to hear those exercises are working. Now let's talk about this business. I want to come to the grand opening. And I was like, okay, what dates do you have? And she said September 23rd. So I said, perfect. That's when we'll do it, September 23rd. So that's a really long story to tell you. Temple, she helped me write a business plan. She is the most generous, helpful, genuine person I've ever known in my life. She's not about impressing anyone,
Right.
but she does understand how special her brain is. And she is on a mission to share her knowledge with as many people as possible while she still can. She said very soon, she probably will not do in-person conferences anymore. She's going to go to almost all Zoom meetings. So we're just so blessed and thrilled to have her. So by the way, I don't know if I said and all that. So she is coming. She's the keynote speaker of my autism conference on September 23rd. And she is absolutely the best. She leans in and listens, and there will be opportunity there for people that have specific questions about their kid or themselves if they're on the spectrum. And she will listen and she will talk and she'll do book signings, and she's phenomenal. Like, I could not be more thrilled that she's coming. And then also, we're also having her a couple days earlier for some ag events. So if anybody wants to contact me for that too, there's a couple in Lexington, a couple in Mount Sterling. I'll be happy to share that too. But since this is mostly an autism crowd, that autism conference is Saturday, September 23rd in Mount Sterling, and there are still some tickets available. And now, as we're recording this, and so it's just Temple Grandin, and then of course Lori Hellman, who is amazing. It's going to be fantastic.
No pressure.
Dr. Kristen Dawson, she was at UK, and then she was co-founder of Wild Health in Lexington. Well, it's really all over Kentucky now. And now she started a new company called Wild Minds, and she talks about a lot of holistic things that help people on the spectrum. She's phenomenal also. And then the fourth speaker is Aaron Mutterick, who is he is the creator of Crazy Aaron's Thinking Putty. And I first heard about him when a friend of mine, just as a gift, mailed David this putty. And she told me that she had seen a YouTube video about him, that he was an engineer, and he felt like he thought better and could plan better when he was like playing with silly putty as he worked. And he said people kept stealing his silly putty. So he thought maybe other people like to fiddle with putty when they think. And he quit his engineer job and started this company. And he exclusively hired people on the autism spectrum to help him design the putty. And now he is a worldwide company. He's in 11 different countries. And his company, it's a requirement of his company worldwide that at least 50% of their employees have some sort of disability. And I love his message because his message is, it's not charity. It's not charity. Oh, give these poor people a job.
Gives them
it's
meaning.
That they really have something to offer. They are going to help your company.
Yep.
And give them a chance. They may not interview great, but they're going to work. They're going to do what is asked of them, and they're going to do it well.
Right.
So more companies need to step it up and give people with disabilities a chance to have an actual job that they can make a real living on, because they're capable. So he has a beautiful message. It's going to be a beautiful event. The speakers are all fantastic. There's also a large vendor hall that will have 30. I have 30 right now. There may be more by then. Companies that offer either a service or a product to help people with, that are on the autism spectrum. Our friend Louis Pryor from Mavia Toys will be there. He's phenomenal. His toys are amazing. So I'm so happy we get to showcase them there.
Yep.
It's just going to be a great event. I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
I can't either. So do you have an anticipated opening date of the Learning Curve of Kentucky for taking on, new clients and
Right. No, I'm talking about, like, of course, the dream is to have the property where I have all of it there.
yep.
I have a greenhouse and the woodworking equipment and
hmm
farm, everything there. Now, of course, that's going to have to be happen gradually. I can't
Yeah.
snap my fingers and make that happen. So until then, I would like to start in January, seeing clients and just taking them out and or coming to their home, whichever, and find again helping them find something they're interested in. And then obviously I don't know how to do all those things. So like if it's music or it's woodworking or whatever, I will hire or take volunteers from the community to help teach them. And then, really, I really would love to partner with businesses and say, look, these people have these skills. And again, this is not just autism. This is any limiting ability, anything that is limiting anyone for whatever reason. If we can figure out a way around that to find another place where they can fit or another activity that they can do and enjoy and feel fulfilled, that's our goal. That's what we want. We want people to feel fulfilled. And so I think it's going to be great. I couldn't be more thrilled that Temple Grandin jumped on board and encouraged me to do it, because the beauty of her and a lot of other people on the spectrum is they're not saying anything to make you feel good. If she thought
She's
it was a
definitely
terrible
not.
idea,
She
no,
has no
no,
filter.
no, oh, she does not. If she thought it was a terrible idea,
She would tell
and
you.
I saw at that teleconference, I saw her at one of the things they had, she thought was a terrible idea. And she totally just announced it. Like,
Yeah.
that's terrible. You have to fix that. But again, she does it in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
It's not critical and judgmental. It's, we're going to make this good. Like,
Yeah.
this is what you need to do to fix this. And I've never in my life known anyone that wanted to be more helpful. And again, it feels critical when, believe me, we've had many conversations about my son, and many times she said, he's not a baby. Don't treat him like
I know.
one. You've got to push him, and of course he is my baby, and I'm sure I do baby him a bit. But that's not in his best interest. And she's absolutely right. And she's willing to talk you through steps.
Yep.
She's not saying throw him to the wolves. She's willing to talk you through steps to help him get there.
It's crazy how much time she is willing to devote to people she doesn't even know. I mean, she was on my podcast and she endorsed my book, and she gave me all her feedback, and she gave me some suggestions about Skylar. And I'm like, I open arms took it all, because I'm like, who better than her? Like, she lives this life. Just because her spectrum is different than Skylar's, she still can relate to autism in general and what he might be thinking. She's a better translator than I am of what he
she's
wants.
So genuine. I mean, and she told me that when the movie about her life came out, that her speaking engagements and her income went through the roof.
I bet.
And she said, but I don't need money. She said, I don't need any more money. So every bit of money she makes from her speaking engagements, she has paid for kids to go to school at Colorado State University.
Yeah.
All the way through PhD. Like, she's paid for doctorates for students. And when she's part-time now, but when she was full-time staff, the students that were assigned to her for their research projects, she 100% funded those research projects with her money from speaking fees. Yeah. Like, she just gives and gives and gives, and it's beautiful. It's an absolutely remarkable, beautiful thing to see.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing, because I mean, sadly or not, I guess I shouldn't say it sadly, but it just seems like these really cool ideas and voids that are being filled are by parents with special needs children. I can think of, handfuls of companies and respite programs and housing and just all kinds of things. We keep saying, well, there isn't a day program. There isn't anywhere for them to go. There isn't anywhere for them to have job shadowing or learn a skill or, broaden their interests and all these things. And so you, like many other amazing parents, are building it and designing it and giving hope to a lot of other families still coming up, so that hopefully when more kids are aging out of services, they're going to have places like the Learning Curve of Kentucky to go to. And this may be modeled in other states after you knock it out of the park with this one.
That'd be great. Yeah.
We just have to put our heads together and figure this out and do for ourselves, because we can't wait around another decade for somebody to solve these problems, because nobody is putting this at the forefront of their focus in
Right.
any Congress acts or anything like that. I mean, we are on our own. So as parents of special needs kids do, we bond together and we figure it out and we support each other. So I will link up the information about the event on September 23rd and where you can purchase tickets. And if you guys can make it, and if you live in and around the Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio area and can make it to that event, I highly, highly encourage you to. It's going to be like no other. I am so excited to meet Temple in person and to meet Aaron and Dr. Kristen and all the other people that are there. So
Yeah,
I'm looking
it's
forward
going
to
to
it.
be great. And we do have people have purchased tickets from West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, even Virginia. One's coming from Virginia Beach. I mean, people
Yeah,
are coming quite a distance to this conference, and it's super exciting.
it's going to be big. It's estimated, 300 to 500 people. We're already at
Yeah.
200
Mm-hmm.
plus. So
Yeah.
don't miss out. Well, thank you so much, Karen. I'm so glad we're friends, and I follow along with David's journey, and you're just kind of getting started in this aging out process and with all the
Right.
things that you're doing, but you've given some really valuable information and insight, and I know it's helpful to a lot of people listening. And if you're 10 years away, even just stock this information away. That's the whole point. Re-listen to these in a couple of years. If you
Yes.
if it's not resonating with you now, it will. We can't afford to sit around and wait until 18, 20, 21 comes, because
Right.
it's better to get on a bunch of lists as soon as you can and then kind of figure out if it's for you or not, versus waiting until you have no other options and then you have to
Exactly.
wait
Yeah.
another 3 to 5 years for something to open. So
And think of the incident rate of autism is through the roof. I think,
yeah,
what is it, 1 in 33 now or
yeah,
something?
it's in the
So
30s.
we are on our own, yes, but look how huge we are.
Yeah.
We, as a group of parents, if we all get together, we can change their world without a doubt. Without
Hmm.
a doubt, we can do that.
Yep.
So it's time. It's time to do it.
It's time to do it. Well, thanks so much, Karen. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for speaking at my event. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Take care. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.